I made my own pick list too for this patch especially, and I'd like to share this one too, and I'm really curious about what you guys think about my personal pick list. I dislike 2 RNG based heroes, I generally dislike late game heroes, and I'm really a friend of early game heroes that guarantee you to avoid those nasty 7s and 8s places that really tank your rating. And so let me open my personal tier list here. Oh, wait a minute. Let's switch the screens. Here it is. I really put Peter Pan's in first, as I just love playing headball. Yesterday was a few of those days where I 2 times missed headball in a row, but I was still able to finish 3rd and 5th with Pants. And so I had 17 out of 20 games with Pants, top 4 this patch. A lot of first places too. If you hit the nuts headball fork early on, it's almost a guaranteed first place. Estrians are that hard competed by so many players. They really pick away from each other and can't scale fast enough to compete with the headball fork in my experience this patch. Wonder Waddle, a lot of players put in S tier. I'm not as successful with Wonder Waddle as with Pants. Interesting, you're a sucker for late game heroes? But they only work, in my opinion, when you play against far weaker players than yourselves. And my list is especially for Mythic play, especially if you like to climb to top 100. And the competition is that tough. Early on in this season, I often saw a lot of lobbies where only 3 players lived to see turn 6.0, and most of the time there was no late game hero at this point in the lobby. He is good, only a complaint about D is Apocalypse. I used to play him wrong before. I saw someone use him correctly and it did wonders from the train. Yeah. I think I underrate him because, let's make this clear. This is my picking order, my personal picking order. This is not how strong these heroes are in general. I don't feel comfortable with playing Apocalypse because exactly of my lack of knowledge. I totally agree, as we have seen before, that Apocalypse is far stronger on average than rating him D tier, but I personally struggle to hit the sweet the sweet spot of protecting your health on one side and buying XP aggressively. That's for sure a weakness in my playing style, and so I totally agree that on a general tier list, Apocalypse should be rated higher. Yeah, you said this is a pretty fast meta for sure, and that's the reason why I prefer early game heroes in this meta. Yeah, you say it, Apocalypse is a really good pick if you can balance XP and builds, and that's for sure one of my weaknesses still in my playing style. One of the first heroes I unlocked, I think it was the first hero overall, was Pants, and I loved playing headball from my very first week playing Storybook Brawl, and that's why, yeah, I'm really strong on Pants to today, and so experience is really important for some of the more complicated to play heroes, and I totally agree that I really lack experience on Apocalypse, and some of the other heroes are rated for me personally that low because I simply lack the experience. Maybe Celestial Tiger deserves to be a tier higher too, but I really don't have the experience which level 2 and 3 treasures shine on Celestial Tiger. Especially, that's why I've put him that low. I don't like swingy heroes, that's why here the Trophy Hunter is that low too for my taste. Yeah, Xalur definitely needs to rise in my picking order. My last two Xalur games, I was lucky to pick a lot of trees and made it to first places. I only was really unlucky early this season with Xalur. So I think I'm happy right now to pick Xalur over Miri, or maybe even over Fallen Angel or Morgan. I have Morgan that high because I had some crazy RNG games early this season. I think I had 8 Morgan games and averaged 1.5th place with Morgan, and except for yesterday I had pretty consistent first and second places with Morgan, as the hero power, the treasure, always kicks in at the right time when you need a little boost with Morgan. But I misplayed it pretty hard yesterday in picking the wrong treasure that tanked my Morgan rating a little. So as said earlier, when we looked at the average players' results, I rate Headless Horseman much higher. Don't rely on Morgan, please. You're playing without a perk unless you purposely tank losses. Well, but you get a huge boost once you really struggle with your HP. And usually that stabilizes the board for a few more turns, and I really try to avoid 7th and 8th places. I don't think I have... I have 1 8th place this season, I think, at maximum, and not many 7th places, and Morgan is really good in avoiding those two. But maybe I really high-rolled her this patch, and that's why I pick her that high, just to validate that I high-rolled her, and to invalidate that she's really that good. So Fallen Angel is just pretty consistent, so I think she deserves being A tier. I talked about Miri a little before. Xalur is clearly underpicked by me. I'll try to change that in the future for sure. But let's talk a little bit more about the Headless Horseman. I don't remember what tier I put Morgan in, but I think she's very good. Yeah, you really have a hard time to get 7th or 8th places with Morgan, and that's what makes a hero really good for climbing, at least for my taste, because in the higher ranking regions you have such a big drawback. If you get 1/8th place, 2 first places don't make up for the points you lose, so I avoid 7th and 8th places by all costs, and that's reflected by this picking order. And that's why I like the Headless Horseman, to come back to him, because I just use him as early economy. Whenever I know that I kill at least one opposing character, I play the Kidnap, so I end up with +6 gold economy advantage early on in the game, and that's huge to protect your life into a healthy mid-game, and you can transition to wherever you want from there. So I really think Headless Horseman deserves the B tier at least. But as stated earlier, it seems that a lot of players seem to play him as a late game hero, and that seems to be a huge mistake. The Cursed King Headless is the most misused hero, to be honest. Yes. I think I'm with you on that one. The Cursed King is really solid. I think the drawback of having to cast lots of spells is not that huge, as I'm a really sucker for spells and headball. I'm used to cast as many spells as possible, so I really like the early game economy of the Cursed King. From the results screen we've seen earlier, there are quite some other heroes between the Cursed King and Sharebear. And I think it's correct, because the drawback of Sharebear is bigger than lots of players, including me, thought as he was released first. Your opponents get 1 gold too, and that leads to crazy fast lobbies, and your economy bonus is not that big compared to the Cursed King. So it might be correct to place some other heroes between these two, but this is my personal picking order, and I don't make such a big difference between these two heroes as I certainly should when I was only picking from the winning percentage order. You can negate Cursed Heroes' downside with a deck of Many Things treasure. Wow, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Nice tip for the other players too. Yeah, Cursed King for sure. Cursed King. Yeah, and I love deck of Many Things for sure. It's one of my favorite treasures anyways, as I stated earlier. Really like to play head ball. I still put Gwen to come to the next hero into B tier, though I only doing slightly over average with her results wise, but I just love playing her hero ability. Oh, let's talk about Sharebear one more time. You don't like Sharebear because of its equal economy for you and your enemy? Yeah, it's for sure a thing. It's for sure a thing. But I haven't, to be honest, I haven't played him that much this patch. Maybe that's why I put him a little higher on my actual picking order right now, to see how much worse than the Cursed King he actually is. I think I only had 1 or 2 Sharebear games this patch, as I was more interested in seeing other heroes, how they do. But this is my picking order, how it is right now, just to see how Sharebear does. But there's for sure an argument to make him a little weaker. Gwen is that high for me because I just love the possibilities you have with knighthood, and it's always interesting if you can get an early happy little tree, or my favorite move for sure, as someone who loves playing headball and spells in general, is an early visit familiar to knighthood him. It's almost a top 4 guarantee if you can knighthood an early visit familiar, but I even like it when I don't high roll, because then you have lots of possibilities to stabilize your mid-game. E.g. to put a knighthood on a sleeping princess is pretty strong to protect your health total, and so I really like her gameplay-wise. Yeah, also fun fact from the chat, you can limit your turns alive if you get the Fool's Gold treasure with Curse, where you get +5 gold for paying the health cost, unless you get the deck in which is free +5. Wow! I never thought about that, to be honest. I always thought I would shoot myself in the foot if I took the Fool's Gold treasure on the Cursed King. That's a great advice. So let's see the C tier. Yeah, you said earlier that you like Geppetto much more. Maybe it's because of my little confidence in a Bierstein late game that I pick him that low. Oh, maybe I'll try to pick him a little higher over the rest. But I don't think I see myself picking him over Mars, because it's so much fun. Mars is not really consistent, but it's really fun to roll for other heroes. That's why I've put Mars on the top of C. These are... yeah. I don't want to say less reliable heroes, but just heroes I have less fun with, and or are slightly under average, like Merlin or Sharon, that don't do so well. Or yeah, the Mad Catter is funny if you play him sometimes for a change, but I don't really like playing him too often, as you always have to pick random characters in the early game, so the game plays itself and you're not playing the game actively. So that's my C tier. I was surprised how hard the hit to the Horde Dragon was when he lost 5 HP. And that's why it doesn't work for me reliable anymore, as it's a really high rolly hero now. And as I said earlier, I try to avoid 7th and 8th places by all costs, and that's what made the Horde Dragon a D tier. I like practice with Apocalypse, as said earlier. Loki is on average, from the average results, better than D tier and deserves a higher tier for sure. But as 7th and 8th places are so tough regarding the rating, that's why I ranked Loki far lower in my picking order, though it's really fun to have a Loki game every now and then. The rest might be ranked in any order. This is, I didn't put too much thought into these parts, as you usually, if you get to pick from 4 heroes, you usually never end up in this area. Yeah, Loki and Fool's Gold is for sure some kind of jackpot. I really loved those high rolly games. And I'm really looking forward to play a few more Loki games. Every season when I reach Mythic, I take myself a few days off from climbing and just playing fun heroes, no matter how strong they are. And I get in an occasionally trophy hunter game at that stage of the month too. I ranked Pup and the Giant a little lower than they deserve results-wise, I think, but they're just boring to me, so I don't intend to pick them. Interesting question is with King Midas, if I am just not good at playing him, or if he really doesn't deserve a higher rating. Pup and Giant aren't very good stats-wise either. Oh, alright, so I'm not missing out on too much not playing them. I think Skip was much better stat-wise, but it's the average stats, and Skip has a relatively high potential to end up 7s and 8s, and that's why he ended up down here for me. Yeah, Midas is fun for sure, and I'm really looking forward to play a few Midas games once I've reached Mythic next month again and pick him more often. I agree totally on that one. Really looking forward to play some more Midas games. Does any of the Eta heroes deserve to pick higher, except for the Celestial Tiger, maybe? I don't think so. I don't think so. So yeah, this is my personal picking order right now. And I don't always follow it. Sometimes it depends on the mood I'm in. Swings was one of the most OP heroes ever released once she was freshly released before the nerf. Now, Swings isn't actually a bad hero, but it's highly RNG based. It all comes down if you can find XP spells on those 0.0 turns. If you can find XP spells on those 0.0 turns, you are at 6.0 in no time, and Swings rolls really high. But if you don't, you really don't have much that protects you from an early grave, and so Swings has a relatively high potential to get 7th or 8th. It's a little like the Trophy Hunter gamble. So if you hit the nuts with Trophy Hunter, you get first. But if you don't, you have high potential to finish a lobby at 8th or 7th place. And in my experience, Swings has unluckily, a similar fate things since the last patch. I'm sorry, since the last nerf, not the patch. It was a Swings nerf that really put it down from S tier to E. Maybe there's some arguments to put it a little higher if it wasn't for those 7th and 8th place potential. So, to say this one more time, this is my personal picking order. It doesn't say that those heroes I love picking most of the time are actually the best. And I sometimes deviate from this order just when I'm in a different mood for some different hero. And yeah, are there any more questions you'd like to ask regarding this personal picking order for climbing in Mythic? Else I'd get in some more games and see if I actually could climb back to the top 100.